Lately, a lot of people have come to me with questions about camps.
Do you consider those concentration camps, and do you deal with them in your book?
I started researching the larger history of concentration camps in 2008 and got my book contract for a history of camps at the end of 2014. So it's been more than a decade now of intensive work on how parties or governments round up civilians and lock them away based more on who they are rather than anything they've done. And during the first Trump administration, the number of people who were willing to see how we were already, even then, transitioning to camps after decades of extrajudicial torture and cruelty, that number was small.
Has the Trump administration set up concentration camps in Texas for migrants?
Sometimes I would pitch an editor to write a story and they would get it, and then they would take that idea to their editor's meeting and it would get shot down. First, I just thought maybe I wasn't pitching it well. But then with Trump administration abuses along the border in 2018 and 2019, editors started reaching out to me to have me write something.
In one of her latest articles, Pitzer writes, quote, "While writing a book on camp history, I defined concentration camps as the mass detention of civilians without trial, usually on the basis of race, religion, national origin, citizenship, or political party, rather than anything a given individual has done. By this definition, the new child camp established in Tornillo, Texas, is a concentration camp."
Finally, I thought, okay, people are getting it.
We're hearing that they're going to be moving some of these detention sites onto military bases where we'll have less access, we'll know less what's going on. And this goes back to a number of different camps that we've seen in the past.
And some did.
We still have a lot of ways to take action, but I think that it's very problematic moving forward. This is the kind of stuff we see where you end up with concentration camp regimes.
But in other cases, even when an editor had reached out to me, had solicited a piece, they still ended up not being able to sell the concept in their editor meeting. But 6 months into a second Trump administration, both the president and Stephen Miller have openly talked for more than a year about detaining millions and millions of human beings.
Today's top story. Fort Bliss will be home to the country's largest migrant detention facility. The $231 million contract is part of a $1.2 billion project to build a short-term detention facility for 5,000 migrants.
They now have whole law enforcement agencies that are willing to collaborate in these abuses, even when it has occasionally meant detaining American citizens illegally.
It is also completely illegal for ICE. They have no authority whatsoever to detain or arrest U.S. citizens.
The budget just approved for ICE will allow them to expand exponentially beyond the current cruelties.
You will see ICE now being the single largest federal law enforcement agency in the history of the nation, potentially with enough funding to hire more law enforcement agents than the FBI, and more detention potentially than the entire Federal Bureau of Prisons.
And now so many people are reaching out because while there might still be some editors who are blind to what's happening or who are deliberately misrepresenting it, a lot of Americans can see what the plan is much more clearly than they were able to 5 or 6 years ago.